thank you for inviting me here. So today, the purpose is just to give you an overview of exactly what Globalscott is, explain how the structure works, and I will add on my own personal experience and, how would you say, my outlook at Globalscott and where it's going. Let's see if this is the right one. Okay. So, Globalscott is really quite a unique organisation. And it is a business network of people at executive level that have agreed to commit to the growth of the Scottish economy. Scotland as a country is only 5 million people. But when you look at the history of Scotland, the people in Scotland move because essentially we have a good education, we have good skills, and often we can't find the positions we would like. So we move abroad. And I'll show a slide to illustrate that, and it's quite interesting how far the Scottish people actually get for 5 million people. So it was founded to harness the drive and the ambition and the talent of the Scots. The one thing the Scottish people have is that they basically don't give up. We keep on going until we get where we want to get. And what Globalscott is, it taps into this expertise, it taps into this attitude to actually feed back in to the Scottish economy, to help the growth of the Scottish economy, and actually leverage all of this experience of people like myself who want to give something back, because it's an attitude as well. I want to give something back, but as the ambassador says, there are certain benefits. I mean, I'm involved with certain companies. I'm a board member in 2 Scottish companies, and essentially, we can feed into other parts as well. I mean, like I also advise in certain occasions the Scottish government, because I have a specialism that is quite unique in Scotland, actually, based on my experience. So, this is just an illustration. I mentioned earlier Scotland is a small country, but we are spread essentially throughout the whole world. You can see that the Americas have quite a high percentage. In Scotland there still are Global Scots, because actually some Global Scots do actually return home. Asia Pacific around 20%, and within Europe around about 28%. So we're sort of spread through the whole world. Skills. Again, when I joined Globalscott, I didn't realise personally the reach of the Scottish through organisations worldwide. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just an illustration of where we are and what expertise can be leveraged. You can see that we have a great expertise through many states in the US, in Canada. We have senior people in Microsoft. I'll just use a few examples. Genzyme for life sciences. And one that's not on here is the head of R&D in Pfizer Global is actually a Scottish guy. He's a personal friend. And that only came from being in Globalscott. Again, so I get a benefit of networking with these people as well, because we each learn from each other as well. We're stronger collectively than individually. Just more examples. This is European-based, but in France, Pernod Ricard, the Scottish have a history in drink manufacture, especially whiskey and other spirits. The Scottish also have a strong history in life sciences, so you will see a lot of Scottish within a lot of the pharmaceuticals at quite a high level. AstraZeneca, Bayer. And also you find the Scots in the entertainment industry, hotels and other entertainment. You can see United Arab Emirates and Jumeirah. You also find in Malmaison and others. So it's spread through many, many different sectors. Again, this is just an illustration of Asia Pacific. You can see here that, again, a widespread. Unilever, BP, Deloitte, Singapore as well, Hong Kong, India. These are all Scottish. There's a total of around 750 members of Globalscott, and I'll go on to describe now exactly where these people are actually involved. So, what I was, when I joined Globalscott, I was told the philosophy of the organisation. And the philosophy of the organisation is actually to try and have a wide range of experience that's basically complementary. And you can see from this that we have a wide variety. Life sciences is 150, creative industries and technology 136, aerospace, Airbus also. So basically there's a wide range of skill base, and this is the key. It's not just life sciences, it's not just engineering, it's through the whole industrial sectors. So you can leverage all of this experience. We don't focus on one sector, we use everyone's experience. Just an illustration of financial services. Scotland again has a history in financial services, Edinburgh especially, and you can see that people in Scotland at this point work Bank of China, JP Morgan Chase, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup. These are all senior people because in Globalscott you have to be of the sort of executive level to actually join, to contribute. So these people are actually real people who are involved at a high level in these organisations and can actually add to these organisations as well. Energy, Scotland has a history in oil, and you can see in energy, and you can see here there's a wide range of experience. Tourism as well. Scotland is famous for tourism, and again, not just at home but also abroad. Starwood, Jumeirah again, Trump. Food and drink. Again, a wide range of experience within food and drink. So, that was just the introduction to show the breadth of experience. We're a very small country of 5 million people. But we have this organisation called Globalscott, but essentially, how does it work? What's the mechanics behind the success of Globalscott these last 10 years? So, essentially, Globalscott is run by an organisation called Scottish Development International. This is an independent agency of the Scottish Government. This agency gets funding from the Scottish Government, but again is independent from the Scottish Government. So Globalscott is actually funded as part of Scottish Development International. So essentially it receives central funding from government to make it happen. As Globalscott, we get no financial benefit, but there may be other benefits such as joining companies and networking and actually talking to people worldwide and actually sort of coming together. So, some specific examples. So the advice, business efficiency. Essentially, I've had a number of questions from my personal perspective, is that I have a lot of experience in R&D departments and making them work. And I've had a number of requests saying that we have a number of issues. You know, how can you make this R&D department more effective, more outward-looking? How can you actually make a small company in Scotland more global-looking? And this goes again with the business startup, because the thing is, a lot of us have experience of starting up small businesses. I myself have started up a number of life science companies. So I can help and actually sort of give them, you know, at least the help to get them started, but also help them understand that it's a global world and how to integrate within this global world. So essentially, the advice can come from a wide variety of aspects. Really, there's no limit to the advice that we can give when requested. So the request comes from the Scottish Development Globalscott Department. So what happens is that a company would come to Globalscott and then ask, we need help with, for example, raising funding and also setting up a company in the United States. So there's a large database of all the Globalscotts, and then we can actually, then they can tap into that and actually say, okay, this person is the one you need to talk to. So we can specifically target a person and say, that's your best person, talk to him, he'll be able to help you. So, again, I mentioned that, I'm on a number of boards, company boards. I'm also on one advisory board as well. So again, to give advice. Giving advice is the key to Globalscott. I've also spoken at a number of universities. When I go back home, I've been asked to speak at my own universities to highlight not just my personal experience, but also to highlight Globalscott and how, you know, people that actually leave haven't really left. Like you say, the Hotel of California is very true. You never leave. You're always part of it. And so basically, it's like you always are linked in, no matter how hard you try. So I'm also, as I say, in a board. I visit schools. I speak actually quite a lot about Globalscott and spread the word about Globalscott, the networking and the capability of the network. Access, essentially new markets. I live in Belgium. I get a number of questions, you know, from companies. You know, how can we export to Belgium? I mean, you know, how can we target the Belgian market? And really, because I live here, understand the market, understand what's happening, then I can give some advice. And it's the same with the US market. A small company that I was involved with, a small biotech, through me I actually made a request through Globalscott, because I didn't have the experience, but I fed back into Globalscott and asked the question, you know, this company has a good product, we're looking for a distributor in the US, we're also looking for a distributor in the Far East, can you help? And so Globalscott put us in touch with 7 people who link in with distributors for this type of product in both the US and also the Far East. And this company is now exporting, which is very interesting, and their turnover has increased 300% because of that. So it shows a real example of how things can work. So the next couple of slides are just to show a couple of examples. I've talked about myself, but Globalscott is a much larger organisation. So this is just a case study, Polybius Games. Scotland also has other sectors, such as the gaming sector, video games and other things. And basically, this whole purpose was that there was a gaming firm that wanted to actually access Dubai. And we had a connection within, if you remember from the beginning, within the Jumeirah Group. So we can then access this person in the Jumeirah Group, who then can understand the market, the culture, and exactly, you know, can advise on the best way for this company to actually enter the market. And this company has successfully entered the market in Dubai because of this. This is just another example. This is actually from global sourcing of a company called HEB. HEB I know quite well because I lived in southern Texas for 2 years doing some research. But this is actually just this is a large supermarket chain in southern Texas. And it's a small Scottish company, and they were asking, well, you know, can we access the US market? We want to have a foothold in the US market. So the suggestion was, yeah, we have a person within southern Texas who's involved in supermarkets. So they want to sell jam. Again, Scottish like jam very much. But essentially, HEB are now have an agreement with them, and it's expanding year on year. And so the jam manufacturers, the fastest growing imported brand in their field in the US now, and they now export 35% of their output to 43 markets across the world. And that statement is very telling, because that tells you you're a small company, you can access this network, you leverage all this experience worldwide, and you can actually expand your markets. As the ambassador says, you can make some money. It's important. So, with regards to Globalscott, this is just a general summary. There's 750 of us in a wide range of sectors. The service is free, but we are involved with each other, and we are involved with companies and other situations. So again, it's free, but there can be some personal benefit. The assistance can be essentially anything. I help in a variety of different ways, from advice on funding, advice on setting up research and development departments, advice on just general advice on company management as well. And having Globalscott in a small company help that company face outward to the world, Because all of us in Globalscott have been abroad for quite some time, and we actually, you know, as I say, we want to leverage our experience to push this back into Scotland. The one thing that was highlighted in a discussion I had in breakfast with the Ambassador, just to bring it up, the one issue, and it's an important issue to bring up, is essentially the issue, you're with a company just now, and the issue of IP confidentiality. For me, this has never been an issue, because the opportunities I get to work with Globalscott are within my general experience, but not directly related to my current job. This is very important, because at no point can you jeopardize your current job, because you have to be certain that if you're helping somebody, it's not going to, how do you say, you're going to set up a company that's going to be in direct competition with yours. It's very, you know, so basically you have to be, how do you say, very aware that, you know, there's some trust that go into the central organisation. And I'll be honest, the central organisation of Globalscott, I have found personally to be very good, very responsive, very understanding, and you know, when you join Globalscott, you don't just send in your CV. You actually have a long discussion. They go into your skills in detail, and they really make sure that there's no, how do you say, conflict in any of the requests that you get, which is extremely important. Just to end to say, my personal experience with Globalscott has been very positive. I actually enjoy giving back to the country that actually gave me the education, gave me the opportunity in the first place. It's very easy to leave and never go back, but you know, it's like I return home. You know, it's like the Scottish as well are very altruistic. They want to give something back to their home country, and no matter if you're in a high executive or scientist abroad, you know, many Scots actually do enjoy this experience of working with Globalscott. For me, it's not like a job. It's actually a pleasure to actually help people and to actually see small companies develop, and to actually see that you can actually have an influence, like the Ambassador says, on the wealth of your home country. Because at the end of the day, your home country becomes wealthier. Then, you know, it's like there are Globalscots that return back to Scotland. So it's like, you know, so once Globalscots, you know, can get a critical mass, then a lot of them actually do return as well. They're not always away from Scotland 100% of the time. So basically, I'm open to any questions from the audience. Feel free to ask me in any part of the presentation on my experience, on Globalscott structure, on any aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. We'll have 15 minutes session, so it's a long discussion. We can suck his experience, of course. Don't hesitate. Please introduce yourself first. Who you are, from where you are, and then go ahead.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Radisson. I'm from ESC Germany. I have questions about Globalscott. First of all, about the history. I mean, you said that it is funded by the Scottish government. But my question is actually, is it really 100% funded by the Scottish government? And if it's really 100%, did they really support you financially and also politically or something like that?
Globalscott is basically a non-political organisation. It's actually funded by the government, but it's through an independent agency called Scottish Development International. For me personally, I'll give an example. I'm not given a salary by Globalscott. To come here today, I do it out of my own time, because it's what I do. If I go to say, there was a meeting last year I went to in Denmark, which was a science meeting, and I was a representative from Globalscott. Globalscott would help pick up my expenses from that meeting. But again, I made no personal gain from that. So really, it's not political. They will support you if you go to meetings, but at the end of the day, they will not pay you. There's no fee attached with Globalscott, and there is no membership fee as well. It's completely free, and it is supported by the Scottish government, because they see the benefit of it. It's not just for helping Scotland, but to actually publicise Scotland. This meeting itself is an example of that. how, it's like, I'm talking about Scotland. Maybe after this meeting, we can have some interesting discussions. But yes, so does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Wikan. I come from Vienna, Austria. My question related with the business and nationality. As far as I know now, the company has brought all multinational company, and the money doesn't belong to any nationality anymore. The Globalscott and also Indonesia integrated, I think it's like exception. How to bring the money to some national, because it's irrelevant, I think. So what do you think the most benefit for the people, for the business people, so they can bring money back to the country and make the country rich and don't belong to some individual or the company?
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
Thank you.
No, that's a good question. Really, for me, I mean, I use myself as an example because that's the best example that I've got. But for me personally, I gave the example of companies I've been involved with and to help them grow. I'm actually a shareholder in those companies. I actually have some personal benefit from that. And it's not just making the companies grow, it's actually, it's like they employ more people in Scotland, they actually increase the wealth. With regards to other aspects, most global Scots can also network with each other. And so I think every 2 years there is a meeting of global Scots, so we can actually network with each other as well. So again, there's an opportunity to actually to network and to actually link in with many different people who can actually help you personally as well. But for me and most of global Scots, I would think nearly all of them, is the fact that we want to see our own home country grow. As the ambassador said, Europe is in a bad way. It's like you look at the growth in Indonesia compared to the growth in UK. And I think Indonesia is over 6%, if that's correct. And the UK is in recession. So, you have to be outward looking, and you have to realise that it's a global world. Scotland is a tiny country in a large ocean. And at the end of the day, it's like I'm pleased to actually help, and to actually help companies and individuals realise that there's a big world out there. I think it's important.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Muhammad Najib. I'm from Paris. So we work in Paris, and we work for oil and gas company. I have two questions for you. First of all, you mentioned that there is a certain level to be a member of Globalscott. I would like to know what are the qualifications to be a member of Globalscott. The question number two is that it is written in your website that Globalscott is managed by Scottish Enterprise and endorsed by Scotland First Ministry. So I would like to know about that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. The First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond, gives his complete endorsement to Globalscott. When I joined Globalscott, I get a personal letter from Alex Salmond, who is essentially the Prime Minister of Scotland, to say thank you for contributing, and he's personally committed to make a Globalscott a success. But again, earlier, there's no political influence in Globalscott. This is key. I'll be honest, if there was political influence, I would not be involved. This is an organisation that's for the benefit of the country, and there should be no political influence. And essentially, what was your second question? Sorry.
To be a member.
Oh, to be a member, sorry, yeah. So, to be a member, you have to have a certain level within companies. basically to have certain influence within companies. If you, for me, I'm a Global Scott because I'm Vice President of Research and Development within a biotech in Belgium. If you look at Global Scott, nearly all of these people are executives within their organizations. And the reason for that is quite straightforward in the fact that these are people that have an influence within their own organizations and can actually make things happen. If I was a scientist in my organization, Scottish scientist working at a low level, I could not leverage as much as I can in that position. So there has to be a certain level of experience and sort of managerial experience to actually contribute. A lot of people would like to join Globalscott, and I get accused as sort of as an exclusive club, but it's not actually. I mean, the whole philosophy of Globalscott is that they want to balance the experience of everyone globally. And with regards to life science, I think I was the last person to be included, I think, in life science for a while. And the reason for that was that I had some unique experience that I could bring in, translational medicine and other things that I do as a job, which not many other people have. So they're looking for specific skill sets and really a level that you can leverage your experience within your own organization to help Globalscott as well. Because if you get to a vice president level, you are usually in touch with people, within the industry at that level as well. So you can leverage. If I have a question, it's say, can I help in Belgium with regards to Johnson & Johnson? Then it's like then I'll think I know this guy in Johnson & Johnson. I can connect in. So it's really so the experience and the managerial level is key. So that's.
But who is judging that?
Who is judging you? I was invited to join. It's quite funny because it's like Big Brother. I was actually invited to join because I worked in Scotland as a consultant for the Scottish Enterprise, Scottish Development. And the year I was going to Belgium, said, yeah, why don't you join Globalscott? And I said, okay. So I actually had to have 3 interviews before I got accepted. It wasn't just a sign that you're in. It's like, they wanted to make sure you had the right skill set. They wanted to make sure on their databases, what you had was like going to be useful. So at the end of the day, it's like usually there's a list within Scotland of all the high-profile Scots. And then, it's like if there's in specific sectors, then actually there's other networks that people can tap into. And then, either you get invited or you can actually even approach Globalscott and ask them, it's like, can I join? I feel like I can bring something to the table. So there's 2 aspects. You can be invited or you can actually ask them if it's possible.
The lady there, yeah. Dennis?
Yeah, one of
Thank you. My question is, among the members of this Globalscott, do you have any the same professional? Let's say I'm accountant, and then is there any other one? Are you accept any other accountant?
There are.
Okay. My second question is, as a Scottish outside of Scotland, how can you manage to implement yourself to be able to contribute to go back to Scotland? I mean, everyone got different agenda and everyone got different self, me and me. So how can you make that Scottish outside Scotland still be together with the same vision?
Okay.
Thank you.
Ibu mohon introduce yourself.
Oh
first.
iya, maaf ya. Nama saya Indah Morgan. Saya dari kampungnya Robin Hood di Nottingham. I come from Nottingham.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your question. So, in answer to your first question, is that there are multiple accountants within Globalscott. To the best of my knowledge, I'm more of a scientist, but there are multiple scientists within Globalscott as well. If you are an accountant within, say, New York or California, then I think there are a variety of companies that you could be an accountant in. So they try to balance all the experience. If there's 3 Scots within one accountancy firm, then most likely one of those senior members will get included. But again, if you're an accountant within Australia, or within Indonesia, within South America somewhere, then essentially you will have a network linked in to where you live as well. So you can be an accountant, but still live in a different country and still be included into Globalscott. Your second question was that we're all quite diverse. I think that was the question. And all over the world, how do we actually come together and how do we actually function? I think that's a very good question. And the one thing we do have is we have a strong discussion page on LinkedIn, which all of us are members. And it's a very active discussion on LinkedIn as well. We have other mechanisms as well, that we can have direct calls. We have face-to-face meetings every 2 years. But essentially the internet is the way we all keep in touch. Because, and that's sometimes, it's like sometimes there's even unofficial questions. It's like, how can anyone help with this? That's not even going through the official channels. So it's quite good, and it's like, there's a lot of, and then the key to it is that if you look at the LinkedIn page, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of open and honest, impressions. One of the most recent, they do surveys. One of the most recent was, should Scotland become independent? Yes or no? I can tell you what the result was. It was surprising. 75% of Globalscott says yes, Scotland should be independent. but it's not a political organisation, so I'm not telling you how I voted. But essentially, the internet can be a very powerful tool for this type of organisation, and using LinkedIn and other mechanisms, has been successful for us. And the other part, is the central part of the organisation. And they organise us very well. I have a specific person that works with me. There's a specific person for all the sectors that actually works with all the Globalscots, which is important. I mean, we still have this strong link to the centre. And it's a very personal link as well. So I talk to this person every 2 to 3 weeks. It's like there's requests given to me if I want further information. It's like pick up the phone and ask. It's a very free exchange of information, which is important for any organisation to succeed.
Are you also doing mentoring among the members of the Globalscott members?
I have not been mentored by any of them, but yes, there's a possibility that we can, like Globalscots can ask Globalscots for help. Assist them for for mentoring or for ideas, and to leverage between us as well, because that's key as well. Not just feeding in, but feeding between as well is key in both directions.
Go, Nani's thing. There's another lady just next to Ibu.
Good morning. My name is Anissa Marconi. Some people call me Nannies here. I'm a student at the University of Amsterdam and I'm in finance, and I was wondering, you were talking a lot about executives who are already into the business for several years and get experience, but how about the younger Scottish people who have just finished their studies and they're young professionals with 1 or 2 years? Do you guide them, help them, or do you wait until they're grown, or are you investing in new members?
The main purpose of Globalscott is actually primarily business. But I show on my presentation that I go into universities and give presentations of Globalscott and everything, and I personally have helped a number of students, giving them advice based on my experience, because I was a student once. I had no money. I lived on one bed in one room. It's like when I was a research student. And so I can relate to this. So at a personal level, I can help and direct them, and I've done that in the past. So it is possible. It is primarily a business organisation, but again, if you don't encourage the young people who are doing the research and are going to come up and actually become the executives of the future, then you cut yourself short. So basically, always encourage, as I say, when I go to universities and talk, it's very important. It's very important that the young people go in the right direction, get as much help and assistance as possible.
Is it initiated from Globalscott, or is it just your personal?
Globalscott is primarily business, but a lot of it's actually, as I say, part of it is actually to spread the word through universities and other things. Because, those people from universities could be entrepreneurs setting up their own company, and this may stimulate them to actually do something. So at the end of the day, primarily business, but secondarily education as well, and exactly, what you can be. This is what you can be. You're maybe like this just now. You work hard, keep on going. It's like then you can reach this. As I say, I was using myself as an example. I came from a small town in Scotland of less than 3,000 people in beside the sea, in the southwest. It's like I left for university when I was 17. Because I either it's like I become a farmer or I become making yogurt. And my brother did the same. But we still go back home. It's like and we still we still have connections. But it just shows where you can come from. It shows, for me personally, the opportunities you can have. If you go on the right track, then you work hard, you get pointed, because the one thing I did was when I was younger, I listened to a lot of people and took advice. And this is what Globalscott is all about: giving advice, giving help, giving direction. Primarily business, but also education as well. So does that answer your question? Maybe a little bit?
Yeah, Mr. Aditya.
Aditya from Germany, Hanover. I have a question. Does membership from Globalscott has its limits, and what does one do to enter this membership if the membership meets its limits?
As I said earlier, for each of the sectors, they have to judge the experience and the level of spread globally. You don't want multiple people in the same company. You want the organisation to be spread through the world. As I say, there is no membership fee. You either get approached by Globalscott, or you can actually be involved. But by putting yourself forward. The interesting thing is that if you actually look back in history, I wasn't there from the beginning. But Globalscott is now, I think, nearly 10 years old, actually. And I think what you see is at the beginning there was a slow uptake of members.